Hi, and welcome to Faith, Hope, and Love During an Election. I am so honored and happy to have Dr. Calenthia Dowdy with me today. And she is many things. She has many, many gifts. She's a writer, she's a professor, she's an educator, she's an anti-racism educator as well. She works as the director of faith initiatives at Philadelphia Fight Community Health Centers. She teaches courses to faith leaders on HIV and AIDS. She has done a million other courses that she can tell us about. She's also a wonderful writer whose first book I'm always looking for on Amazon, and I think we will be blessed by that in a few years, I hope. She also was a contributor to a book that I was a co-editor for called Disquiet Time. And I found Calenthia online. I was looking for people with interesting things to say about the Bible. And we sort of have, I'm not Mennonite, although she is, but I've kind of run in the Mennonite circles in terms of publishing friends and publishers. And people kept recommending her work to me. And then I found her blog and I was able to just really dig deep and go down a rabbit hole of reading all these very challenging, stimulating, loving pieces that she has written. And she also works, I should say, for Roots of Justice, an organization that I hope she'll tell us about as well. So welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I'm here too. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. You bet. Well, I kind of wanted to start with talking about healing. In your essay in Disquiet Time, you write about healing and about the church as a place that should be a place that heals, but often is a place that makes us feel sicker and more lonely and more ill. So, I think that you wrote that essay a few years ago, and how much more true is it even now? So can you talk to us about healing, or what healing you're contributing to or hoping to see in our country right now?
Yeah, I think that a lot of this, at least a lot of my initial thinking on healing, and still today, came out of my own journey, as many stories do, of feeling like the church had let me down in some way, particularly as a woman of color, that there were always, even when I was in my African-American church, the one I grew up in, it was a Black Baptist church here in Philadelphia, which was very nurturing and very caring. A large part of who I am today is because of that church, but at the same time, it was also very oppressive as it related to women. Women had roles. We were not encouraged to, even though I went on to college and did those things, but we weren't really encouraged in those kinds of ways. And I guess perhaps there was fear that we would, rise up and oppress the men. I don't know. I'm kind of joking, but and this was in the 70s. So just not even realizing how I had been damaged to some degree in that kind of space. And then in college, actually becoming introduced to other spaces and joined the Salvation Army for a little while, just because they said that women could be pastors there. And at that time I wanted to pastor. And it was a great experience. I spent most of my 20s in the Salvation Army, but there were still some issues there, and I ended up with the Mennonite church where I am now, and the issues are more related to race, right? So in some ways, very well-meaning people, like the church I grew up in, those men who were great and loving and caring, compassionate. In many of these white spaces, there have been white folk who have been earnest, and caring and compassionate, but also very racist in some of their dealings and thinking. And so, just kind of dealing with a lot of that throughout my young life and my, let's call this my middle-aged life, and not realizing how a lot of that was impacting me. And now we have language for some of that, like racial trauma. I'm teaching a class on Wednesday nights for called Faithful Teach for my work at Philadelphia Fight. And last night our session was called When Faith Hurts. And it was about a lot of the trauma that many of us experience in our houses of faith. And people just resonate. I think they resonate so much with that. So that's kind of, you know, a bit of my own story and really trying to figure out this healing, because I went through a lot of years of just being numb, of feeling nothing. And that's not good. That's not normal. So it took some level of actually feeling, you know, going through the process of mourning, really, of sadness and then anger, getting to the place where I felt like I could contribute to some of the voices around healing, real healing in these spaces. So yeah, it's a journey. It's absolutely a journey. So that's where a lot of that interest came. And it's pretty, I mean, I never thought I would be working for a public health center, but I am. I'm the director of faith initiatives at Philadelphia Fight. It's not a Christian organization. It's not a faith organization, but the one thing the CEO there understood and understands today is that in order for real deep healing to happen, there has to be some spiritual work that takes place as well. That's a lot. I mean, to hear someone in a secular organization say something like that struck me. So I was hired. I'm the first director of faith initiatives at Philly Fight, and I was hired to create a program, totally for our clients who are living with HIV and AIDS. That's our specialty, that deal with spiritual health and wellness. And also to work with pastors, leaders of houses of faith, and just saying, hey, here are some ways that we could really affirm and love and embrace people who are living with HIV. And as a matter of fact, all people, actually, right? I think we trigger a lot of people's hurt. We don't mean to, but just in some of the things we say and how we treat people, and folks are reading all that. And if you've been damaged, you know how to read that stuff very well. You could read people's words and behavior. So we don't want to re-traumatize people. House of Faith should be a place where we really help people move to a place of total healing, whatever that looks like.
It's so interesting to me that so Disquiet Time came out in 2011, if I'm remembering correctly, or no, 2014? I don't know. It's been several years anyway. Yeah. But at that time, I don't believe you were working for Philadelphia Fight. Is that right?
I wasn't, yeah.
Your whole essay, it's almost like you were anticipating this work, you know, because you write about, you know, about the church and you liken it to a hospital, right? Like in the beginning of that essay, when you've got the person who's fleeing the hospital.
I was just thinking, what did I write about? Yeah, that's that. Yes, that's the story. Yeah, exactly. He still has on his hospital gown. That was a true story. And I think he's trying to catch a bus or something like that.
Right. But it's almost like something in you was anticipating this next chapter in your life by writing about healing. And now you're literally working for a health center. You know, that's really interesting to me, you know.
Yeah. I had no idea. I mean, no idea, but.
Yeah, it's like it's a part of who you are, I think, you know, to want to bring healing. So how has your work changed over the last few months with needing to be physically apart from people? And I would imagine working with people who are living with HIV and AIDS, you know, a ministry of presence would be really important, you know, to be present with someone, to listen to them, to, you know, meet their needs in physical ways as well. How are you doing that work now during this COVID time?
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm not able to, at least physically, see our clients as much as before. Of course, some of them are still coming in to see their medical providers, but you know, I'm not a medical person. The great thing is that some of our clients have actually become friends, and so you know, if I'm friends with them, they usually have my personal number. And every now and then I'll get a text, you know, how you doing? Or I can send a text, how's it going? How are you feeling? What's happening? So trying to stay in touch in those kinds of ways. In the beginning, it didn't, you probably can relate to this. In the beginning, I thought, oh, this will be a couple of weeks and we'll get through it, you know. But here we are, about 7 months in, and I'm feeling the anxiety, and many of our clients are as well. It's tough, and so we're just scrambling, trying to find ways to at least be in touch through lots of Zoom.
Yeah.
Many of us are getting tired of that, but at least we can see people, and our medical providers have moved to telehealth, you know, again, Zoom meetings, and all that's useful, but I think folks are struggling, you know, folks are struggling, and not sure what to do with all that.
Well, and the people that you work with, if you have a compromised immune system,
exactly,
of, you know, of this time would be, you know, quadrupled, right? Because, you know, yeah,
absolutely. So it's tricky. We're just trying to stay in touch in other ways, you know. But there's nothing like physicality. There's nothing like a pat on the back. There's nothing like a gentle hug. You know, those healing touches matter. And we talk about that in my Faithful Teach class. You know, we talk about how things we take for granted, like hugs, healthy touch. And everybody in class, you know, here we are, we're taking the class, we're all on Zoom, and everybody talks about how they're missing all of that. You know, they're missing the hugs. Church is a great place to get some good hugs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult, and we're struggling, you know, because there aren't any clear path, fully healthy answers.
Right. Yeah. I wanted you to tell us too about Roots of Justice and some of the work you're doing there. And I also want to invite people to visit your, you know, Philadelphia Fight and learn more about it, and also Roots of Justice. What's the URL for Roots of Justice for people to find?
Rootsofjusticetraining.org.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's the URL. And Fight is just fight.org. You can find out about everything. We don't only do, we're fully, you know, we're full federally qualified health center. So we don't only do HIV and AIDS, but that's kind of our, you know, that's our centerpiece. That was, when we started only seeing people who were living with HIV, and then it's grown from there. Roots of Justice, wow. Roots of Justice started within Mennonite Central Committee. At that time, it was called Damascus Road. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but yeah, it was developed by Tobin Miller Shearer, who is a professor and heads up he's a white Mennonite guy who heads up the African American Studies Department at University of Montana, and Dr. Regina Shan Stolzfus, African American woman, grew up Mennonite, and she's teaching at Goshen College in Goshen, Indiana. So years ago, we're up on about 25 years now, they began talking about racism, systemic racism. So it's not interpersonal, right? But systemic racism within organizations. And boy, I tell you, those early years, because it was not well received, as you can imagine. And it started with trying to just, you know, dismantle systemic racism within Mennonite organizations, and it's grown from there. In about 2012, I think, Damascus Road departed from Mennonite Central Committee and went independent. We changed our name to Roots of Justice, and so we're still, you know, we still have great relationship with Mennonite organizations, but we are not we're not housed within a Mennonite organization. But this work really spoke to me. I went through a training, I guess in 2002 or 3 or something, and it just spoke to me profoundly. And I love the faith base within the Damascus Road training. We had a faith-based analysis, and it just made sense to me when I thought about some of my own experiences within white institutions, and how I had been left out of a lot systemically, right? How these organizations were not even designed for me to be there. And so it spoke to me, and I thought, I want to do this. I want to do this work. And I ended up joining the training team. I joined the training team in about 2003, I think.
And
I've been doing this for a while.
If a person goes to the website for Roots of Justice, what does that look like? What does that process look like for them if they sign up for a training?
Well, our website needs some help. So we actually don't have the trainings listed on the website. We may have a training happening at a certain location and date, and then they can click on the link and sign up. We often ask people to sign up with other people from their organization, so that teams come. It's better if teams would, you know, work at this together within their organization. But a lot of it also happens through word of mouth and reaching out to folks. Yeah, I don't know. It is definitely a labor of love. It's probably one of the most challenging things I've done consistently over my life, is to talk about and work at dismantling systemic racism within organizations. Nobody wants to talk about this, you know. It's tricky. It's kind of like the times we're living in. You know, speaking of that, having done this work now for almost 20 years, and getting a lot of pushback, what's happening now with the racial uprising and the murder of George Floyd, it's almost as if this has been building, and of course it has been, right? And so we're at this place where I am hurt and frustrated, but also hopeful, because more people seem to get it now. Like, this is real, you know? African Americans have not just been making up things. Right. Everybody's got a phone and can record now.
Yeah.
That these things have been going on since the beginning of our country. I'm in that generation where our parents, you know, I'm a post civil rights baby, where our parents fought for the movement and told us that everything's going to be good now. You know, we have fought this thing for you, and life is going to be good. And that hasn't been the reality. We have certainly had, you know, more of us went to college and graduated. You know, there have certainly been some advancements in that way, but a lot of the systemic stuff is still there because it takes a different tool to dismantle that. Some people would argue you can't dismantle it. You gotta burn the whole thing down and start again.
Right, right. I think you're right, though, that a lot more white people are naming it, acknowledging it, reading, educating themselves. I'm just seeing, I write for children as well. And what I'm seeing in the children's publishing space is a real desire to elevate writers of color. And so I'm seeing, you know, editors that I work with sending out tweets saying, I would really like to hear some stories from people of color, please, you know, direct message me or whatever. And I do think, like when you said you're feeling some hope, things like that make me feel hopeful as well. And I am seeing a shift, at least in some of the spaces that I'm in, of people acknowledging and you know, seeing how they can change their behavior or the books that they acquire or, you know, whatever, in order to make a real difference. So that is a good cause for hope, even in this really upside down time.
I mean, even when we look at the, you know, the protests, I'm just the number of white folks there, you know, I'm like, this is good. This is a real turning, right? This is a shift, and it couldn't come at a better time. And maybe it came because of this time. I mean, this country is in, I want to get overly political, but I think it's okay to talk about politics a little bit. But these are some hellish times. These are hellish times. I can't believe the man we have in the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, when he was elected, I was upset, but I thought, okay, we'll get through this. I had no idea it would get this bad.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we're going through, you know, all of these various movements at this time, this is meant to happen. I've been writing a little bit about disruption. I don't know if you read my latest piece I think it's in the Mennonite, and about disruption having to happen in order for there to be systemic change. We won't like the disruption. Disruption never feels good. As a matter of fact, our bodies and our institutions are designed to resist disruption. This is what actually diversity, equity, and inclusion training teaches. You don't hear it a lot, but this is what it teaches, that in order for there to be a real shift in an organization, that there's got to be some disruption. And so I think that's what's happening in our country right now. This is insane disruption, but my hope is that we're going somewhere better. I've got to believe that.
Right.
I've got to believe that.
Well, I'm always mindful when someone says, oh, I actually was speaking on a different podcast recently, and the interviewer said, I don't know about you, but I'm just wishing that it was 2019 again. And I thought, oh no, because
no.
person said, and I just can't wait for everything to get back to normal. And I thought, haven't we learned that normal wasn't good? And
exactly. Yeah, who's normal?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a real time of reckoning and things being revealed. You know, I keep thinking there have been so many people whose, you know, criminal acts or their true motivations or whatever are all just being completely revealed. Things that were hidden and festering and causing pain in the lives of others are, you know, being overturned. And I keep having that of being, I was a kid who loved
that sounds like Bible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, but I was the kind of kid always messing around like in nature, you know, we had a little stream by my house and I used to sit by the stream and kind of daydream and stuff, but I'd always pick up rocks, right? And you'd see all those bugs underneath. And I just had that image of being a little kid kind of like crouching by the stream and picking up a rock and seeing all that and going like, oh, I didn't know that was under there. And this time it seems like all the rocks are being overturned and we're seeing what was really under there. And now we get that out and, you know, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, we have to live in that hope. Yeah, it's got to get better. And no, we don't need 2019 again. No. We need better. We need true justice, true equity for all God's people. For all God's people. Yeah. I think with the pandemic too, I mean, the pandemic has been, it's bad, but it's been useful. Although I'm ready for it to end for sure, but it did cause a lot of us, I think, to slow down and to look inside a little bit. I know it certainly did for me. Working from home, I did a lot more thinking, a lot of reflection, and just going deeper, you know. And it's been, I've loved the slowdown. I just didn't want it to last this long. But, you know, but the slowdown and the reflection, and that's a part of my own healing too. That's been useful. I just hope I could have done it without a pandemic, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, that's another, because I'm always, you know, encouraging you to write a book. That's another possible topic for you, is to talk about kind of healing during this time of sickness, right? This time in the country and time of, you know, literal sickness in terms of COVID-19, and in what way. Now I'm giving you a memoir idea, I guess, but as a healer, have you gone through a process of healing during this time of sickness? You know, I think that would be one of the 10 books that you should write.
I like that idea. I actually like it. Yeah. I'll keep you posted on that.
Please do.
I'll definitely keep you posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been healing in so many ways. Even getting to know my neighbors. I never really got to know my neighbors. I've been in this house 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know neighbors now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I walk my dog with my neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
and we've developed some close relationships. And two of my closest friends, two women in their 70s. I would never thought I'd have anything in common with them, but
Mm-hmm.
we have a ball.
Right.
So that's and we're so different, but we have a lot in common.
Mm-hmm.
you know they're two white women in their 70s. They love dogs. That was the thing that drew us together. I have a dog and they had dogs.
Yes, your dog is a doll.
She's a piece of work. uh, so it's funny too. I think about things like this kind of broader sickness that we're in, and what it has done on micro levels for many people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been a blessing, getting to know neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
We hang out in each other's backyards, and it's good.
That is good.
It's
And
good.
that's a lasting good thing that you can take out of this time.
Yeah.
Those friendships.
Yeah. Oh, looking for the gems.
Mm-hmm.
Is what's happening now. But yeah, these are, but they're also hard times. My mom she's fine. She's doing well. But I can tell her anxiety, I mean, she's almost 80, and her anxiety in trying to live in a way that she's never had to live and always have a mask on when she's out. It's wearing on her a little bit. So every now and then I'll just say, hey mom, let's go for a ride. We jump in the car and we'll just drive down Broad Street and people watch or something like that. Because I don't want this thing to make my mom sick. So just trying to find ways to help keep her healthy as well. Yeah, I mean, those are the difficult times, and having to see my nieces. One, this is her first year of college, and she's doing it online. And the other one is in her third year, and she's home. She loved living on campus and doing campus life, and she's home. She wants to date. She wants to have a boyfriend,
Right.
And it's really hard. That stuff I hurt for them.
Yeah. I was speaking with someone at an organization that you'd probably really like. It's called Faith and Grief, and it's an organization across the country, but they serve people who are grieving the loss of a loved one, mostly adults. But she said that what she's seeing is so much grief right now, and she said she thinks in 2021, like right now, we're still trying to get our footing and figure out how to live during this time. And but so many people have had losses, not only the death of people that they love, but things like your nieces, the loss of their independence, or certain milestones that they probably expected to have. I mean, if one of them's a freshman then in college, then obviously senior year of high school was very different than she expected. I have a daughter that age as well. So, but this grief specialist said, as much as we're carrying grief right now, she really anticipates, and her colleagues anticipate, that next year, she said, there'll be a tsunami of grief, just as people can finally process, you were saying about feeling numb and then kind of going through a healing process. I think a lot of people right now are still sort of numb and kind of like uncertain, like, how long is this going to be? And, all these things like that. But once we're in a new chapter, people will be grieving not only, some of the milestones that they couldn't celebrate, but she was even talking about people having to attend, the funerals of their loved ones by Zoom call or whatever, and how all those little griefs will be things that we need to heal from. They be, whether it's missing your high school prom, or it's the death of your, partner, both things will be griefs that people will be dealing with. So we need healers like you. And the work you're doing. Yeah.
And the healers have to be sure to keep themselves well as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. There's a wonderful little organization here in Philly run by a Catholic nun, Sister Bernadette, who is wonderful. She's a spiritual director, and the organization is called Siloam, and they have retreats for people who are living with HIV. But alongside that, they also have retreats for caregivers. And they haven't been able to do them right now because of the pandemic. But I just think those caregiver retreats are gonna pack out whenever they're able to do them again. I'm already planning to try to go to a caregiver retreat. You know, it's so necessary.
Yeah.
So folks who give care and folks who are, you know, try to be the healers in their community have to be sure to do what they need to do to keep themselves well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I can't tell you how wonderful it has been to be able to talk to you and to hear about your work. And we'll put up the links to your organizations, and, you know, and I will keep pestering you to write your book. But, and you can also find Dr. Dowdy on Twitter, where she's very active and thoughtful and interesting. So you can look her up there as well. So thanks for being.
Thank you.
I really
thank you so much. I've enjoyed this. Yeah.
Me too.
God bless.
You too.